Hello YouTube, Marielle here. You see, twice my husband told me, you think you know it all when you know absolutely nothing. I perfectly remember the first time was in our kitchen, and the second time was when we almost lost our daughter, and she was laying in a hospital bed, in the hospital bed, and she was sick. She was so ill and we had almost lost her. And he said those words to me. Now, this is another situation I would like to talk about eventually in a video. Yeah, because it's another one of those crazy situations where, looking back, it's full of red flags. But again, I didn't know what the red flags were. But anyway, one thing that I do remember when my wolf said those words to me, there was just so much anger on his face and real contempt in his voice too. It was just so that every single time, the two times he did this to me, he behaved like that towards me, and he said those words to me. I was just taken aback and I felt truly horrible. And, I felt instant guilt for what I may have said or done without malicious intent to him. I immediately thought that I had to have done something for him to lash out at me like this. And I thought like that because my wolf is Mr. Cool Cucumber. Nothing ever upsets him, and so I immediately thought that for him to behave like that and to be so upset, it has to be that I had done something wrong. So I did what most introspective, caring people do. I went in deep inside myself to hunt down my offending actions or my offending words that could have led to this misunderstanding, and so that with the intention of clearing up the misunderstanding, cleaning up the mix up, making everything all right. Well, of course you can guess that it took me doing that kind of introspective work usually took me months, weeks and months, and when I say months, I'm being generous here, we're talking here years, for me to try to find what I did wrong. What is it that I said wrong? What is it that I did wrong? What was my posture at the time? What was my I just kept searching, and I'll just go on and keep searching and searching, and of course I'll find absolutely nothing, despite looking at all the angles of that memory. I'll just come up completely empty handed. And but because I was convinced of the image my husband had made up for himself, I just couldn't settle, and I couldn't be satisfied with finding nothing. So I did the next best thing that people, some people like me would do. I blamed myself. I criticized myself. I chastised myself for being too much. So because I could not find what I said wrong, what I did wrong, or what my posture or attitude could have triggered his anger. So I'll just go and blame myself and think, I am just too much. I just talk too much. I'll blame myself for talking too much. I'll blame myself for assuming too much. I would, caution myself for having too many opinions and being, and be open about them and explain myself too much and and now, I'll just go as far as thinking that the best thing to do was to learn to keep my mouth shut. So this alone is a good example of how he slowly groomed me into becoming a doormat. And he didn't even have to to be violent or forceful, to achieve his goal with me. Because he knew that he could use my own wiring system against me. Let's face it, he knows that I don't like to make people uncomfortable or people feel bad. He knows that of me. So all he had to do was unsettle me enough with, display of false anger, so he could shove me into a state of self-introspection and send me into a constant ghost hunt. And that is a very clever trick. And when I think about it, I've seen similar tricks several times during magic shows, on TV or live. And like everything else, I never thought that the same technique was being used on me almost every day. How could I have imagined that the constant chaos, the constant mini crisis I had to fix, the constant worry, the me always busy trying to come up with solution to problem was nothing more than not only a manufactured situation, but it was as well an intended situation. And here I was constantly trying to make myself be better and do better and improve myself to make things easier for all of us, while things got steadily worse. I remember that I even, after a while, I even started to think that, to dream, not think, to dream that once my kids grew up and left the house, things would come down, and between him and I, things would go back to the way they used to be. And now I know the truth is, it was all an illusion that he conjured up and that he maintained to keep me too tired to have the energy to pay closer attention to what he was really doing to me and doing behind my back. It's the total magic trick, keeping your attention diverted with one hand while the other hand is doing something else. Well, thank God I understand everything now, even if it is too late. And one thing I understand as well is that everything my wolf does, and I do mean everything, is multi-layered. Everything is a multi-layer attack aimed to guarantee more than one emotional fuel result for him to feed off of. Like I mentioned before, the first phase was to keep me distracted. The second phase was to unload a bit of his secret by using narc speak. And this is something I learned. I can't remember who actually came up with that video. Basically, they explained that narcissistic people, usually they tell the truth to their partner or to their victim, but they say it in such a way that the victim always dismisses it. because of the delivery system, it's done in such a nonchalant way, it's done in such a brazen way, it's done in such a, it's just, and it's just so bold. Usually the admission is just so bold that you have no choice, that the victim or the target has no choice but to dismiss it, that nobody who's actually doing something wrong will actually tell on themselves like that, so it has to be a joke. So the victim or the target ends up telling themselves that it has to be a joke, the person can only be joking, or the person is just being sarcastic or something like that. So they dismiss the whole truth, when actually you should believe what they actually tell you. But like everything else, I think they say hindsight is 2020. And the third phase in all of that is when, for my wolf, when he gets his mental masturbation by creating situation and putting me in those very, very difficult situations of which I have absolutely no clue, and that is actually the one causing the mayhem. And then I go to him for support, or I go to him for comfort. And sometimes when things seems a little bit, I even try to comfort him and reassure him. And even doing that brings pleasure to him, because not only is he a perpetrator, he is also it's just so difficult to explain. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. So yes, he was telling me the truth when he told me I knew nothing at all. I was so well deceived. I was acting like the boss of my household, like I had everything under control, when I looked nothing more than an idiot and a tool and an inferior being to his magnificent, brilliant mind. And now, for any of you who have read H.G. Tudor books, the author, he's an author, and he has been diagnosed with psychopathy. You will know how I arrived to the specific conclusion of his possible mental dialogue. And the other reason why I actually think he thinks he's a genius is because I found inside his flash drive an online Mensa IQ test where he scored well above average. And let me tell you that my wolf never... And the sad part about this is that my wolf never wanted to support or encourage our kids with their education. At best, if I forced him, he would be, he would sabotage, or he'll interrupt, or he'll be helpful for just like what seemed like 5-10 minutes, and then he was out of there. And now I found out that he thinks he's brilliant. He thinks he's a genius, and I've known he's always been, super smart, especially compared to me. But it's truly sad to see that man never contributed to teaching his own children and wanting to help his children. And instead, he spent his time just sabotaging my effort. And now my kids are grown, they are turning against me, thinking that he's the one who's done all the hard work. And my kids even say that I'm actually jealous of them. Believe it or not, even my son believes that actually I'm jealous of him. But anyway. And I also came across his online searches for ADD. So he thinks he's got ADD. I suppose he probably does, but so do I after what he's done to me. I mean, I can't focus on anything for long. My thinking pattern is completely scrambled, and it takes an awful lot of effort for me to focus. And but anyway, I also made copies of both of those things for the future. And if you think this is bad, well, let me tell you, it's absolutely nothing compared to the rest of what I have found inside this computer and this flash drive. And like I said in my previous video, if anyone starts saying weird things that don't add up, immediately take a closer look at that person instead of trying to find a fault within yourself to fix. And I'm just going to go now. I'm going to have to break this video in two parts to help me manage the time. And yes, I'm dividing this video in two parts because I'm ready to share what I have discovered inside my wolf's computer and his flash drives. And I've been sitting on those informations for quite a while now, and I had to do that because I had to take time to digest it all myself. But I suppose I'm kind of ready to share and to let you know the extent of what those words really truly meant. You think you know it all when you know absolutely nothing.